And so it should never have come in. That's my radical opinion.
Sorry, do you mean that it shouldn't have come in as in it should have always been free? Or it should have been privatised?
It should have always been pay up front, because I believe, for example...
I'm glad we're clarifying, because I thought you were going the opposite way.
No.
Oh my God, that's... Okay, I'm glad that they clarified, because I thought this guy was saying we should have never had HEX debt in the first place, or any kind of debt. But what this guy is saying is we should have never had HEX to begin with. It should have always been pay up front, which is insane, which is crazy, and something that I never thought I'd hear someone say. So the elections are coming up in Australia, and you have people campaigning out in full force. And one thing that I've seen recently is the rise of independent creators, independent media, which is amazing for any democracy when you have people outside of mainstream media, which is just Murdoch media in Australia, actually informing people and making content, changing people's perspectives. But I did come across this video called Influencers Debate, which has Punters Politics, who I like,
passionate political
Abby
commentators,
Chatfield,
to talk about the major issues on young people's minds. They're going to be debating a range of statements that are the policies and positions of different political parties.
For once, there's an actual, progressive on the side of the left, and not just some liberal or some Labour simp, but actual genuine progressives on the side of the left versus conservatives. So let's have a look.
Australia is doing enough to combat climate change, and I'll get you to start on this one, Joel.
All right. When it comes to climate change, I actually don't subscribe to us doing net zero. I don't think it's a good idea. I think there's a lot more we could be doing for the world to combat homelessness, to combat people going hungry, to lift people out of poverty by actually having cheaper energy. I think that both major parties, Liberal and Labor, subscribing to a net zero policy is in net making living standards worse for Australia. It's taking industry away from Australia. It's making business harder to do. And it's increasing the cost of everything with regards to electricity as a result. And so in terms of, is Australia doing enough to combat climate change? We're doing far too much, absolutely.
Huh?
I can't believe people would sit there and listen to him say that with a straight face, because this is insane, that we are doing far too much to combat climate change. I don't think I've ever heard that opinion from a conservative, because usually it's climate change doesn't matter, climate change isn't real, it's not that serious. But I've never had someone say with a straight face that we are doing far too much for climate change. So I am speechless. I don't know what reality this Jamal guy is living in.
Huh? What reality are you living in? We're doing too much to combat climate change. Do you believe in climate change?
No, I don't.
Not at all.
So that's the issue. You're living in a delusion.
Okay, so he does not believe in climate change, which is crazy to think that he would also say that we are doing far too much for climate change. I guess that makes sense if he doesn't believe in climate change. Anything that we do for climate change is doing too much for something that doesn't even exist, so...
I'm gonna have oh my God.
It's tough to have a conversation from that starting point, though, because if you disagree fundamentally with the science, of course you're going to disagree with any action that tries to combat the scientific reality we're facing of global warming levels currently.
Exactly what I was saying. Like, if you don't believe in climate change, then anything that we do for climate change is doing far too much for climate change.
There are too many immigrants coming to Australia. I'd like to start with you, Joel, because you've been dying to speak about this.
Sure. So, no, look, immigration in Australia is far too high. My grandfather came here in the 60s, actually. He was a part of that percentage that was actually bringing a very useful trade to the country. He was a stonemason. The problem is today, we talk about we need more immigration, but we're talking in the millions now. I mean, this is far beyond what it was in the 60s, where it was about 100,000. And so the real challenge we face is we say we need more immigration because, we need the trades to build these houses. That's simply not what's coming in. Only 0.5% of the immigration that's coming in are actually useful trades to the construction industry. 40% of New South Wales and Victoria are roughly foreign-born. It's too much. It's one of the highest in the world.
And let them in. And how does it affect you?
It's a huge problem.
Most of those people came from Britain,
Yes,
and they're like,
it's all the Irish people in Coogee.
I don't understand how. Why is that a problem in and of itself?
It's a huge problem.
Why?
I mean, I'm glad Trisha, this centre-right classic liberal, is sort of pushing back, because that is the aisle that she's sitting on. That is the side that she's sitting on. And I know that everyone has different opinions. Everyone has the right to their own opinion. Just because someone's conservative doesn't make, like they're going to believe in this, they're going to believe in that. But it is quite interesting that they're all product of immigration. And I think it is quite fascinating how many immigrants or how many people whose parents were immigrants are now strongly anti-immigration. It's like pulling the ladder up once you've climbed up the ladder. It is quite interesting. So I'm glad that Trisha is pushing back on this bullshit.
Immigration has become, it will be one of the centre points of this election campaign, it already is. But the way it's being thrown around is directly in relation to housing,
yes,
right?
That's right.
And I think that's the first thing to point out, that it's not migrants that are the problem, it is foreign investors. And the reason for that is we've had 16% population growth over the last 10 years and 19% dwelling growth. There is construction that's outpacing the population growth. So that in of itself proves that migration is not the issue. Migration rates are not the issue.
I'll put it to a vote then.
I'll just keep going
Why don't
for
you
a
put
second.
it to a vote? Yeah, please.
When we talk about putting it to a vote, the reason you can say that and the reason that you can just throw it to public debate is because the sentiment from the leaders in this country of the major parties is that they're dog whistling to the far right and to the racism that exists in this country. And so the use of the word immigrants is purely to throw blame to a population.
Freya looks like she's about to cry. And I don't know. I genuinely want to ask, like, do these people believe in what they believe in because they do? Or do they believe in it because they get paid to? Because these people get paid so much. I can assure you they get paid a lot of money to say the things that they do. But I wonder if they genuinely believe in the shit that they do. Because if they do, then that's very sad. That is very sad. Because I knew a lot of friends that I had, you know, like really smart. They studied journalism. They had to go to Sky News. They had to start off their career at Sky News, and then they later went on to ABC and other organizations. But a lot of people have to start off, as shitty as it is, they have to start off in this shitty right-wing corporate jobs, and they have to write a certain way. They have to do certain things. I wonder if these people are the same, if they genuinely believe in what they do, or if they just, you know, who they are because of what they are, or what they are because of who they are.
Property investing makes it harder for young people to get into housing. Can I hear from Abby here and sort of where you're coming from on the topic of property investing?
What, the fact that I have an investment property?
If you'd be comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So I invested in property during COVID. I was really lonely and I wanted to buy a house. I thought I was going to go live in Byron and I didn't, okay? That's what happened.
Are you the problem?
I'm the problem. I'm the problem.
Is Abby to blame for this whole thing?
Yeah,
I was going to say,
I'm the
congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you,
No, I was just going to say.
No, but I am the problem. It makes me feel sick. It makes me feel... I do think that I'm part of the problem.
But maybe the question to you then is, do you support ending negative gearing?
Absolutely.
Right.
And tax breaks that you might be getting.
So being a landlord, I completely support ending negative gearing. I completely... Even things like rental caps, I do support restrictions on landlords and property investors.
I 100% support that. And it's not like if you're a landlord, you're automatically an evil person. A lot of people, they get into investing in property because they want some sort of stable income, some sort of stable passive income. And it is a very stable passive income. It is a good investment to make if, you know, you want some sort of security, you're starting a family. But it's the people. The problem is with the people that have more than I would say more than 2 investment properties. They are the problem. They are the one that's just grabbing up on all of these investment properties. And what happens is house prices go up, rent prices go up. I feel like 2, like you can have 2 investment properties, but 3, if you have 3 or more, that's when it starts to get a bit, you are the problem.
$50,000 over the last 3 years, you've had to pay an extra 50 grand. And it's terrible that it's being passed on to renters, but someone's got to pay for that.
But the point is to encourage landlords to sell those houses. That's kind of what I want.
But then,
for example, I'm losing so much money on this investment property that was a very silly decision for me to do in the first place. This, I don't expect to make profit. I've never made profit on these renters because I'm aware that I'm actually beneficiary in having this house as a whole. I'm the one who actually owns the property and who has the benefit of saying I have this asset, right? So if it gets to a point where I can't afford to pay my mortgage, I should sell my second home.
You should.
That's what I should be
sell
doing.
it. And
but that's what we're trying. That's what I would love to encourage.
So
That is a very good point by Abby. And it's a fact that a lot of people don't talk about is that when you have a property house and when you have renters, when you've rented it out, when you can't pay your mortgage, you are still the person that has the beneficiary of having a house. Let's talk about worst case scenarios. A renter who is about to get evicted, or like you don't want a renter to live there anymore, versus a landlord who can't pay the mortgage. The renter has a lot more to lose than the landlord. The worst case scenario for a renter is they end up homeless. They end up without a house. But the worst case scenario for a landlord is that they have to sell their property. That's, like you're still the beneficiary. You still have a house. You still have an asset that you can sell off. And that is the whole point. If you can't afford to pay your mortgage, then sell your property. That is literally the whole point of business. If you can't afford to do something, then just sell it.
Student debt should be slashed.
Hells yes, 80 grand debt, 2 degrees, cut it. Why the hell not? If we enjoy doctors, if we enjoy engineers, if we enjoy not waiting 5 hours at a doctor and we want an educated society, why the bloody hell not very close to free?
Yeah, can I just say, when it comes to university degrees, I don't think we should have ever been having the HECS thing. Now that all these students have come in and they've started taking these debts, God bless them, they didn't know anything better. My cousin, for example, he paid off his full degree, but now he's seeing that you got 20% forgiveness. He's like, well, why did I bloody pay the thing off?
Because he's a nice guy and he wants to help a punter out.
And that's the problem. Are we going to punish people that pay early? Now no one's going to pay. And so if now that they're doing this 20% forgiveness, they're going to have to go all the way to 100% eventually.
100%. That is exactly what they should do. They should go to 100%. And I don't know if it seems like he's saying we should never have HECS debt in the first place. And I agree. Education should be free. 100%. No one, if you need an education to live a dignified life, a good life, whatever kind of education, TAFE education, whether you want to be a tradie or, university, if you want to do something in that field, it should be free. If you need to do something to live in this world, then that should be free. I would be surprised if that's what this guy is advocating for, but let's have a look.
And so it should never have come in. That's my radical opinion.
Sorry, do you mean that it shouldn't have come in as in it should have always been free? Or it should have been privatised?
It should have always been pay up front, because I believe, for example...
I'm glad we're clarifying, because I thought you were going the opposite way.
No, absolutely. No, the students should have always paid up front, I believe, because let me tell you what...
Oh my God, that's... Okay, I'm glad that they clarified, because I thought this guy was saying we should have never had HECS debt in the first place, or any kind of debt. But what this guy is saying is we should have never had HECS to begin with. It should have always been pay up front, which is insane, which is crazy, and something that I never thought I'd hear someone say.
Why? Because I believe that the price of the university degree, for example, some of my friends, $2,000 to $3,000 a subject, when you know that this loan is going to be backed up by the government, the universities, they can charge what they want. But if there's actually genuine competition between the universities and the students have to pay up front, they're like, all right, now we have to compete over the price, get that $3,000 per subject down to maybe $1.5, $1,000. So in total, I can see the reaction on your face.
How does that work in America, dude?
Abby's face is exactly my face right now. Like, what the... I don't want to keep swearing. I know that I swear a lot, but it's just, I didn't think that conservatives could be like this in Australia. I thought this was just an American thing to have dumb as hell conservatives, but this makes me really sad. And the fact that this guy isn't just some dude with his own YouTube channel, this guy works in the industry. I don't know what industry, but this guy works for some McKinsey, some corporate shitty industry, some shitty company or whatever. But that is very sad. Scary almost. The fact that this guy is saying those things with a straight face is like, what do you mean? Education should be free. Like, who cares? Like, there shouldn't be. Education isn't supposed to be competitive, as in price wise. Competitive in quality for sure, but competitive in price wise. This isn't some business. This isn't some kebab shop, where you're competing against other shops on price. This is education, something that is very, very valuable. You shouldn't be talking about this. Having people pay $1,000, even less than $1,000, any amount of money, expecting people to pay is crazy. And I know that for international students, it's a lot worse because they have to pay upfront. And I know the sacrifices that they have to make to pay that upfront. And the fact that this guy wants to do that for everyone is insane.
And what Joel says is correct in the sense that universities currently are in the middle of being able to enrol as many students as they want. They face no penalties and no consequences if the students that they enrol don't finish their degree, it's not the right fit for them, or any of those things. I think
Who cares? Trisha, who cares? Like, we spend billions of dollars on so much unnecessary shit, like on defense, on corporate tax handouts, on property investors tax handouts, tax cuts, like so much money. If someone decides, God forbid, someone decides to enroll in a course and then decides it's not for them, why is that such a bad thing? You know, why? Like, when you get into uni, you are 18, 17 or 18. So young, you have no idea what you want to do. And why should we penalize universities or students if they decide that, hey, I started doing this, I don't want to do it anymore, I want to change. Or maybe university is not for me. Why is that a bad thing? Why? It should, like, you should be able to, learn what you want to do and be able to identify if something's not for you. That should be encouraged. Instead, we have fucking generations of people doing something that they have no passion towards, and that's just going to make it worse for everyone else.
Of academics that need to be paid, thousands of staff working at these universities, big facilities to maintain research that has to be conducted. So if it's not these students paying, then it's going to be other taxpayers. Now, I would have a bit of an issue saying to the tradie in Western Sydney or the mum, the single mum, going, you didn't go to uni, you didn't get the benefit of a degree, but your taxes have to go towards paying for someone else's degree.
That's why make TAFE free as well. Like, TAFE should be free. Any kind of education, higher education, should be free. So that when you go to the Western Sydney tradie, I don't know why the hell she said that. I can bet that she's never even been to Western Sydney. Going to someone tradie from Western Sydney and telling them, hey, look, TAFE is going to be free. Education for your kids will be free, from preschool up and until uni, and any further education they want to do will be free. And we're all going to, share the cost of it. And it's going to be way, way, way less than if you decided to go to uni or TAFE and then get a loan. It's going to be much cheaper. We're going to make the people at the top 1% pay a larger share of that. I can assure you that pretty much everyone would be okay with that. I can assure you. Because if you're saying to them, hey, look, you're going to have to pay for tax, you're going to pay for someone else's education, then yeah, people will be like, wow. But if you tell them, but your kids will get free education, if you want, you can go to uni for free. Any TAFE education that you do will be free. Any course you want to take that, is relevant to your industry, you don't have to pay for. I can assure you that a lot more people would be supportive of this.